Hi everyone, welcome to the January session of Dr. Spotfire. I'm Neil Kanungo and I'll be presenting today's session. At Dr. Spotfire, our motto is learning is not driven by answers, but by questions. The Dr. Spotfire team consists of myself, Neil Kanungo. We also have Ninad Sawe, who helps find good feature sessions. Robert Brashenko, who helps with the summaries and posting on community. And Anna Eperlenko, who is our campaign coordinator. Anna helps make sure you get your emails and are able to register for the webinar every month. Today, I'm going to do the feature session, and it's going to be on some tips and tricks for using images in Spotfire. These will be to enhance your visualizations with maps as well as layout and design. Today is going to be a quicker session, and we're not going to do a question and answer. We'll just do a quick feature session with the tips and tricks. The lab location is in the West Coast of the United States, where we're presenting from today. And a little bit about TIPCO. We've been working for 20 years to help thousands of businesses across the globe use analytics and integration software to create real-time analytical solutions. During the session, you can post your questions in the Q&A on the webinar menu, and I'll answer them periodically throughout the session. We also have Ninad Sawe online, who will answer questions throughout the session as he can. So, let's see. Okay, so today's session. Today's session, I'm going to show how to do some basic visual tricks. Some will be for creating some home pages like this, where you can use different charts here. This is another visual trick where we can have custom charts. I'll show a example of changing image layers dynamically using some menus. And let me show, and I'll also show how to create certain custom visualizations like this airplane seating chart. So I'm going to start with creating this airplane seating chart. Let's see. So I'm going to start a fresh visualization here. All right, so my Spotfire is loaded up. And I'm going to add some data. So for my local file, I have some seating chart data. This data looks like this, where I have different seats and I have some passengers, their age, gender, the rating they provided for the flight, and whether or not they're a club member. So I have no geographical data on this, no location data at all. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in that data. We can see the data is now in here. I'm going to now add a map chart. In this map chart, I'm going to get rid of all the layers that created by default, and I'm going to add my own image layer. Now, an image I have on my computer is this airplane seating chart, and it has all of these seats, and it has row numbers as well as the seat on like the window and the aisle, whatnot. So I'm going to bring that into Spotfire. Now I can see that seating chart. So in order to get the locations, what I want to do is I can right-click on a seat, and I can see the map coordinates right there. So just copying those coordinates, and then coming back over into my Excel file, I have this sheet here where I have all the seats, and I don't have any latitude or longitude. So I'm going to paste those latitude and longitude I just copied from Spotfire in. And I can see that the longitude for the seat A is 0.002832. So what I want to do is get the coordinates for each of these A, B, C, D, E, F, and then I can replicate that. Since this is a grid, I'll be able to replicate that down my sheet. And then I can also just create an increment for each of these different rows. So I have this value right here, which is the longitude. Oops, sorry. This value right here. For longitude. And then in my visualization, I can go over to the next one. I'm not going to do all of these. I'm just going to kind of show you the process. So you can copy those coordinates again. And so for row B, I'm going to take 0.2. I'm going to take this one right here, 0.002998. And for all of these, the latitude is going to be 0.00664. So I can put that in for each of these for latitude. And that'll be the same for everything on row 1 through F. As I go through and I get the new values for each C, A, B, C, D, E, F, I'm going to be able to copy those A, B, C, D, A through F through each different row. So I've already actually done this because this is kind of a tedious process. So what you see here is each longitude, A through F, and I can essentially copy that and I just paste those down here because they're not going to change for A through F. Now between the different rows, I found the distance to be 0.000224. So for row 2, all of these are just the row 1 values minus 0.00224. And I do that all the way down until I get to the bottom row 28. So you can do these calculations yourself if you have a grid. If you don't have a grid, you can just grab the individual points, and I'll show you an example of that in a second. So now, let's see, back to my analysis. Okay. So back to my analysis, I have the seating chart data that I had brought in with no location information. And I just want to add the location information in. So I'm going to go to Add Columns. I'm going to go to Local File. I'm going to go to that seating chart data. And the Seat Location tab has all of those coordinates that I put in. So I'm going to hit OK. Add that in. And then here, I'm going to add that layer. I'm going to add a marker layer for the seating chart data. Now Spotfire automatically recognized that in my positioning column, I had longitude and latitude as some available fields, so it put those in. It chose to size these. I don't want to size them, so I'm going to remove that. I don't want to size it by a specific column. And I adjust all the markers to be the same size. So now you can see each of these points on each of those seats. I'm going to change the shape to a square. so it looks like it's right over those seats. I'm going to adjust this size a little bit. And for this column, I'm going to color it by, I'll color it by gender. And let's say I'll do this. So now I have all of my data mapped to this chart. And I can even, let's see, I can even do like, let's say a pie chart by gender, and I can select all the female, all the male. And my data is now connected to this chart. So an example, this was one I spent a little more time on. You can have it, you can have it as an age distribution. You can have it with how they rated it. You can see here, passengers towards the back had a more negative rating, and passengers towards the front had a more positive rating. You can see where the club members are sitting. You can even select those data points as well. So it's a really simple way to add data to any custom layout. Another example of this, which is a little maybe even simpler, is this is a process diagram for a refinery, and different points on this, the coordinates were captured and added to the existing data set so that a metric could be shown right on the diagram itself. Okay, so for the next example, let me close this. I'll close this. Okay. So for the next example, I'm going to show how to create these type of buttons that jump to the page. And so this is just a little bit cleaner formatting. So what I've done is, the first thing you want to do is actually is to open any analysis. It doesn't have to be this analysis. Open any analysis in your web browser, because you want to get the dimensions for what's going to be displayed here. You want to get this resolution. So if you get here and you hit the print screen button on your keyboard, it'll actually copy your whole screen. And then if you go to even like Microsoft Paint, something simple, and you paste it, now you have that whole screen printed. So I have dual monitors, so the Excel sheet was showing my other monitor. But I'm going to come here, and what I'm doing is I'm finding the area that is just inside the display window. So I'm using Paint. You might have a better photo editing tool than this. I'm using Paint to kind of crop this out because it's something everyone with a Windows system probably has. So now I have the dimensions. It doesn't matter that this is upside down, but I'm going to save this as picture. I'll save on my desktop as area dimensions. So then on my desktop, let me go to my desktop. My desktop, I have this. Let's see. My desktop, I have this file. And what I'm going to do is go to Properties and Details, and I can see the dimensions. This is the horizontal dimensions, and this is the vertical dimensions. So once I have that area, I want to then find an image that I can crop into that dimension. So I have already done this with this rig backdrop image that I've been using. So I found an image that was a little bit larger than this, and I cropped it down to those dimensions that I just captured and found out. The next thing I want to do is add some custom text in so that it can look a little bit like this. And this is pretty simple in Paint. I'm going to do a new one. I'm going to open, and I'm going to go to this backdrop image that was like cropped. And here I'm going to just add some text. So for here, I'll say maybe geology formation, and then I'll say basin map. These are going to be the different pages in my analysis. And lastly, let's say I'll put some rig operations. If you have a company logo or something, you can put it up here as well. And the better photo editing software you have, the more flexibility you'll have with some of this customization. So now I'm going to save this. And in this analysis, let's see. So I'm going to recreate this page real quick to show you how we did it. So starting from a blank page, I'm going to start a visualization. I'm going to do a text area. And here in properties, in edit text area, I'm going to add a background image. And here's that image I just created. Now you can see it repeating down here, so I want to turn that off. And that was in the background image settings. So now you'll see this image here covering your whole page. And it will look like it's not covering everything. You'll see this gap here, but that's because the area in my analyst is actually larger than what's going to be shown in the web browser. So even though it seems like it's cropped off here, when I actually have it in my web browser, it's not cropped off. It fits the whole window. So I have these different pages. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take what I have is a transparent image. It looks black, but this is a PNG file that has no image in it. It's just completely transparent. And in this text area, I'm going to add an action control. But rather than create a button for navigation, I'm going to choose image. And here, I'll select my transparent image. I'm not going to put any display text in. It's going to be this image. And when you click this image, I want it to jump to geology, the geology tab. So I'll add that in. So this is that action control I just added. I'm going to bring it down. And I'm just going to cover this geology formation text. When I hit save, although you can't see it, there's actually a transparent image here. So when I hover over it, I can select that and create this button that will jump to this page. So another thing you can do is change the flow of your analysis by making this kind of a navigation page, a home page. And you can change the page navigation by right-clicking in this area and making it history arrows. And now a user can't select the individual tabs. So they can click geology formation and it'll jump to that page. And they can click the back button to go back and forward with the history arrows. Or you can add a function in here. I'll show you. You can add a little link in here. By highlighting this and making this an action control and changing this to link, now this action control can go back to the navigation page. So you can come back here. If you really want to clean it up, you can also add instead of adding these links, you can add images themselves, not a background image, but just a regular image. And I have this home icon. And I'll make this smaller. Oh, I'm sorry, actually, you actually want to do it through the action control to make it a button. So you do the image, I apologize, and then you do the home icon, navigation. There we go. Okay. Now, if I click this, it'll go back to the home. All right, I'm looking at the chat for a second. So someone asked if these features are available in Spotfire 7 or if it's just in 10. You can do these in Spotfire 7 as well. And the menus are all the same, so this is not a new functionality. Now, someone else asked, why not just add a page link via text on this page? Why not just add it via text instead of a transparent image? And the reason is, the reason you don't want to go and add something via text, like let's say I say basin, I'll put this down here, basin map. And I'll make this kind of large. And if I add this via link, you can't really control the formatting as well. I mean, you can go into the format control and you can change some of the text color. And this might be an easier way if you want to control just have a link functionality and not create this image background. But another advantage of having these image backgrounds is that if you use a transparent area, you have more flexibility with the formatting and the styling of this. So if you wanted to create kind of custom looking buttons or even a layout on the home page with different regions, let's say different parts of a map, like a floor plan, and you want to click those, you could use these transparent images to place it over those maps and kind of navigate around. So you can definitely use this link thing for just the text, but I've found for just kind of creative reasons, you can use this as well, get a little more customization. So the next thing is, so this is going to be a little bit trickier. This is going to be creating a custom chart. Now, if you have just a regular chart with the X and Y axis, it's much simpler to plot your points as just X and Y, but this is a ternary plot. And a little background of what a ternary plot is. So a ternary plot has three axes, and it's looking at a composition of three different components. So one component going from 0% to 100% on this axis, another component going to 100%, and another component going to 100%. That's how you have three axes. So for this diagram where there's organic matter, sand, and clay, points that have 25% organic matter will be along this line. And then you get these other axes for like clay lines and sand lines. So what this ends up looking like is a plot where you can get different points all along here. And so this ternary plot's not available as a default visualization in Spotfire, but it's an example of how you can use certain diagrams. There's many phase diagrams, for instance, in engineering and the physical sciences, which you may want to use as a background image for reference as well. So I'm going to start from a new visualization, and I'm going to browse for local file. And I'm going to use this well data. This well data has, these are for different geological formations, and it has the breakdown of quartz, clay, and carbonate. And it has the basin and the formation, and then it has the latitude and longitude. And what I did is I also added 3 extra points, these calibration points here. So you get 100, 0, 0, and these will just be for each of the 3 points on my triangle. So I'm going to add this well data. Okay. Now I'm going to create another map chart. And in properties, I'm going to take out these other layers. I'm just going to start with an image layer. And I have an image background for just this ternary plot. So for this type of plot, I want to convert these 3 coordinates into an XY coordinate, into a Cartesian coordinate. So in Wikipedia, it shows the Cartesian coordinate transformation. So for every X point, I'm going to multiply it. I'm going to multiply that coordinate. I'm going to take that coordinate, and I'm going to take the B value. Here, A, B, and C are each of these 3 axes. So A, B, and C on the components. And so I'm going to take the B value to C value divided by the sum of all 3. And then for the Y, I'm going to take square root of 3 over 2 and do this transformation. So let me do this real quick. So in my data, I'm going to add a calculated column. And I had already kind of created this. So this was going to be my Y value. So I create that calculated column. I'm going to do the same thing for X. And this was that transform put in. So carbonate, clay, quartz, those are my A, B, and C's. So now I'm going to add this here, and it's not going to line up right away. So for positioning, I don't want to use longitude and latitude because those are, as I'll show you later, those are for the geographical locations of these wells. So I'm going to use these X and Y's that I just created. I'm going to take the size. I don't want to size it by any column. And I'm going to shape it by the formation value. Okay. So it's not lined up because the coordinates of this are, they're kind of, let's see, I can actually show you. These are the coordinates, the X and Y, and they're just represented as a percentage of, you know, they're all between 0 and 1. And so they're all kind of tiny down here, but what I need to do is I actually want to use these coordinates. So 0.00019 is where the X's should start. Oh, sorry. The X's should start at 0.00033, and they should go to 0.00936. Also, the carbonate is a, this should be equal to 1. My coordinates, I want this to match where this is equal to 1, but since this is 0.00932 or 936, and this is 0.0035, what I want to do is essentially, this might be a little confusing, but I have 0.00936 is the farthest on the right, and then 0.000, and what I have, 3 over there. So this was going to be the farthest on the bottom left, and this is the farthest on bottom right, and the difference of that is 0.000903. So on my X values, I'm going to go back to my calculated column. And I'm going to multiply this whole thing by that value I just calculated, this proportion, so 0.000903. I'm going to hit OK. Make sure I have all my coordinates in the same location. It's probably going to be easier when I show you this. Here, I'll show you this for one that I've already done. So I have 937 here, and I have 0.0039 here. And in my column properties, on X, I multiply it by that 0.009. And then I add it by 0.00034, since this one, which is supposed to be at 0, is not at 0, it's actually at around 0.00034, 31 shown here. So what this is a translation and a scale. So when you want to scale the coordinates and scale the points you have, you multiply it. And when you want to translate it and you want to move them over, so in the example I just showed, I moved points over right, you use a add or subtract from those coordinates. So this was the translation, and this was the scale component that I multiplied by this value. Now, if you don't have a ternary plot and you just have regular XY axes like those phase diagrams I showed, you would just take your value. You wouldn't even necessarily need any of this. You would just take your value and multiply it by any scaling that you would need and add any translation that you would need to those points. And if you remember, I added these, let's see, I added these calibration points here. And why I did that was in my visualization, I have these calibration points and I was able to align them up. So here. Let me actually, sorry, I have a lot of files here. One second, I'm loading up this file. Okay, sorry about that. So these calibration points I have lined up here. And I can either filter those out or I can just delete them out of my main data set once I have everything kind of lined up. Now I have all my points, and these are by the different formations. An interesting thing is, once you start using data on the maps, even if this is non-geographical data, you can use the exchange, you can use the templates on the exchange. If you go to TIBCO Community Exchange and go to Spotfire, there's all kinds of exchange templates for spatial data functions like contour plots and points and polygons and spatial heat maps. So I was able to apply that here. So what I can do is I can select a certain formation, and this is going to calculate the contours around it. I can even turn off the well data. So if I wanted to see, for instance, like Eagleford, I select that, and it's showing me where those are centered around, finding contours. And you can use the heat map function as well and put all these over there. Okay, I'm going to take a look at the Q&A for a second. Someone asked, can you drill down on a three-dimensional image? You have three-dimensional scatter plots that you can use. You can have three-dimensional scatter plots. So this is actually kind of would actually be a three-dimensional view of that ternary diagram. And you can see things this way, but you wouldn't be able to add an image reference as a background. But that's the only three-dimensional capabilities that you'll have in Spotfire. So the last thing I'm going to show is how to fit an image. So what I've done here is, what I have is image that shows all of these basins, these shale basins. But I don't have a shapefile for it, so I don't have any way to kind of reference it. I have my data, my well data. This is the same data from here. And remember, this data had latitude and longitude that I mentioned earlier, and that's for where it is geographically. So I know where these are, but I don't have any way of marking what basins they're in. And let's say I can't find a shapefile and all I have is that image. So what I would do is go to Properties, Layers, and I'd add that image layer. So I added that this image layer. Shows that. Now I already had some of these lined up, but let me, okay. So when it adds it, it might add it like some other place, not aligned where it needs to be. So a little trick you can do is you can add a feature layer, and within Spotfire by default, you have all of these shapefiles automatically available to you by default. So I can go to USA and I can select states, and now I have a interactive state layer here. So I just added this from the GeoAnalytics library that ships with Spotfire. So again, layers, you would just go to add feature layer, and then you would just come down to this part. So now these states, I'm going to change the appearance of this layer. I'm going to make the border color black. I'm going to make it a little transparent. I'm going to turn off my wells. So we can see where the state should be, and we can see where my image is. So this is transparent. This is over my image, which I can't adjust the transparency on the image. So I went to the community, and on the IronPython scripting page, under Maps, there is a script for changing the layer extents, the image layer extents. And it has this code in here. So the way this code works is it'll select a map layer, I'll show you a little quick walk through this, but you'll choose the map, and you'll type in the name of the layer, and it'll assign this xmin, ymin, xmax, ymax to it, which you can set here in a static value, or you can do a document property and create a slider, which I'll show you now. So what I did is, let's see here. I'm just going to create a new text area. I went to File, Document Properties, and I will go to Scripts, and I can create this new script. So this is that script from the community. And what I did is I used these document properties, these lines for lines 9 through 13, instead of using these values. So these are going to reference a document property called xmin, another one xmax, ymin, and ymax. In order for this to work, you have to create those document properties. You also want to have, create a script parameter that ties to your visualization. So this is going to reference that script or that visualization. So what you'll do is you'll add a script parameter v, and you'll make it a visualization, and on basin map So this is the page Bayesian map, and then it's well locations is the visualization. So I hit OK. And then the other thing I did was I created document properties. So what you would do is you would create a property and you would say like xmin, I'm going to just call it xmin2 for demonstration purposes. You would make it a real, you can make it 0.00, whatever. And anytime this property changes, you hit the script button, you can select the script that it will execute. So I want to run the script that the Iron Python script I put in, and I want it to run on this visualization. Make sure you select this part or it won't let you save it. So I hit OK. So anytime this value changes, it'll run that script. And I did that for xmin and ymin and all 4 of these. Anytime those values change, it'll run that script. So here on edit text area, you can add a dynamic property here. You can add a dynamic control here. So I'll add a slider. And I'll select X max. So the slider will be associated with X max. And I'll make this -50 through -100, 150. Sorry, I actually need to do it the other way around. And that's because I know those are the longitudinal coordinates for this part of the world. And I'll make the interval 0.1. You can, well, I'll just show you this first. So I'm going to save that, and now this is going to adjust. See, now it's adjusting the X max, the right side of my chart, as I move this around. And if you don't want to do a slider, you want to have more flexibility, you can just use that input field instead and just tie it to X max in each of those. So here, if I change this to -60, they'll still change. So this is a way you can go through and you can fit your chart, your image to your map, and get it a little more exact. I'm not going to do it perfect, but just give you an idea. And so then when you have your well data on, and you can then go through and you can unselect this or even just delete this layer completely, this reference layer. And now you have your points where they are on those shale regions. So, and if you want, you can, let's say you want to highlight a certain region. Go to properties, layers, and I have some transparent images. I have a circle, square, and triangle. So I'll put the circle in. I'll add an image layer. I'll add the circle in. And let's say I want it to go from here, like I want to go around this area. So I can select the top left, for instance. I'll copy those coordinates. I'm just going to paste them here for my reference. So the 41 is the vertical, and that's going to be the top. So my extent settings, I'll put that as a Y high, and the X low is going to be the farthest left, which is the second value there. So I grab the top left, let me grab the bottom right. put this in for my reference and move this to the other screen. Okay, so my Y high is going to be 41.20216. My Y low is going to be 39.18835. My X low is going to be negative 82.3286, and my X high is going to be 79.34033. I'm going to change the coordinate reference system. I'll hit OK. And now that circle is over those points that I wanted to select, and I can turn those on and off. You can't adjust the transparency of an image inside Spotfire, but you can adjust it before it comes to Spotfire. So these images I use have some transparency. They're red, and I use a photo editor to make them like 50% transparent. And that's why you can see through and see the underlying map behind and all these routes and stuff behind that circle. I'm going to take a quick look at the chat. So someone asked, do I have any resources for loading the GeoAnalytics package that ships with Spotfire? So it is loaded directly into the library when Spotfire is installed. So you'll see it in the library in a GeoAnalytics folder. Now, your admins may have moved these somewhere or deleted them. I would, if you don't see it in like right available in your library, I would ask your admin if they've moved it, and if they happen to have deleted it, then they can just re-download them from the TIBCO eDelivery site and reinstall it. And as long as it's, you know, this GeoAnalytics and it's reinstalled, Spotfire will know to find it in the geocoding areas. And this geocoding is very, very powerful. I recommend, you know, searching the internet, Googling about Spotfire geocoding, learning a little bit about this. It can be really useful if you don't have information on, if you don't have like spatial information. For instance, like if you have a data set that just has the state name, but it doesn't have like any GPS coordinates or geometry data, you can add the geocoding layer for those states, and it will automatically join your data set with just the state names, and it'll join it to the map, and you can make an interactive map that way. Another example I'm just going to show you, because I forgot to go over this earlier, is, and here's just another type of non-geographical image that can be used. So this is on safety information for worker injuries, and you can see, you know, dynamically all of these changing. You can add pie charts on these coordinates. So this is another map chart here as well. And so you can have interactive data on all of these as well, and use pie charts. And this can be used on floor plans. There's a lot of flexibility and options here. I'm going to take one more look at the Q&A. Someone was interested on Spotfire images on landing pages and websites. So I'll create a community article on how to create the landing page that we discussed earlier, and show a couple different examples, and we'll post those after the webinar sometime. So, but that's it for today's session. Thank you all for joining, and we look forward to seeing you next time.